And on top of World Today, breaking news that's just coming in. Russia has proposed next round of talks between Russia and Ukraine. The talks are proposed to be held in Istanbul on the 2nd of June. This even as Zelensky had expressed reservations earlier in the day over talks being hosted by Turkey. He's still open to the idea of talks. Listen into what Foreign Minister of Russia Sergei Lavrov had to say.
Российская сторона, как и договаривались, оперативно разработала соответствующий меморандум, который излагает нашу позицию по всем аспектам надежного преодоления первопричин кризиса. Наша делегация во главе с Владимиром Мединским готова представить этот меморандум делегации Украины и дать необходимые пояснения в ходе второго раунда возобновленных прямых переговоров в Стамбуле в ближайший понедельник, 2 июня.
And breaking news that's coming in from the United States of America. President Trump has reacted to the developments when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. Trump says disappointed in what happened in Ukraine. The bombing and the continuous attack on Ukraine is something that has now concerned President Trump and Washington, D.C. Donald Trump also says it'll take about a week to find out and that the United States of America will respond differently if Putin keeps playing the US. And he also has warned Russia yet again that they will soon find out. Can't tell you if Putin wants to end the war, is what the US president has said.
Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently, but it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Having very good talks with
Mr. President, you said yesterday that Putin is playing with fire. What will be the consequences for Russia if Russia continues to attack?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud. We're not happy about that situation.
Well, Donald Trump completely looks rattled over here with the developments between Russia and Ukraine. That nobody's paying heed to what the US president is saying has come as a shock to him. This also comes a day after a war of words on social media between Donald Trump and former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. The Russian Security Council chairman warned Donald Trump of another world war breaking out should this rhetoric of America continue, after the US president said Vladimir Putin was playing with fire by refusing to engage in peace talks with Ukraine. The fresh exchange between the Cold War adversaries came amid Trump's growing frustration with Putin as Russia continued with its strikes on Ukraine.
On Tuesday, the US President Donald Trump's Truth Social post warning the Russian president that he's playing with fire got a prompt reply from Moscow. Within hours, the former Russian president posted a cold threat of World War III on X in reply. Dmitry Medvedev is now the chairman of the Security Council of Russia. The Kremlin's official response to Donald Trump's post remained diplomatically restrained.
Trump says a lot of things. We, of course, read all of it, monitor it, and we come to a conclusion that Trump hasn't got sufficient information about what's really going on in the context of the Russian-Ukrainian confrontation.
In the backdrop of this war of words on social media, Russian drone attack on Kharkiv region in Ukraine on Tuesday killed 1 and injured 8. Russia destroyed and intercepted over 100 Ukrainian drones over various regions, including a swarm of drones heading for Moscow on Wednesday. Videos circulating in social media show an aftermath of a drone attack on Zelenograd within the territory of the Moscow region. These were similar to waves of Ukrainian drone attacks targeting Moscow and other cities last week, following which Russian strikes in Ukraine intensified. Since coming back to power, the American president has been pushing for an end to the deadliest European conflict after World War II and has shown increasing frustration with Vladimir Putin in recent days. After speaking to Trump for more than 2 hours last week, Putin said that he had agreed to work with Ukraine on a memorandum that would establish the contours of a peace accord, including the timing of a ceasefire. Russia says it is currently drafting its version of the memorandum and cannot estimate how long that will take.
At the same time, there's a lot of nuances regarding the subject of discussions that cannot be sacrificed. None of the parties will sacrifice them because of their national interest. Just like the US, Russia also has its national interest that is paramount for us and for our president.
Так же, как у Соединенных Штатов, у России есть свои национальные.
President Vladimir Putin's conditions to end the war in Ukraine include a demand that Western leaders pledge in writing to stop enlarging NATO eastwards and lift a chunk of sanctions on Russia.
They do not want to hold talks in neutral Geneva, but they want to have them in NATO member state, which is Turkey. You see, it's not about which country will host talks and which alliance it belongs to. It is all about Putin and their desire to postpone. They are constantly looking for reasons to postpone, a format which can bring an end to the war.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reached Berlin on Wednesday for talks with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to discuss further military support. Berlin has been the second biggest supplier of military aid to Ukraine after the US. A day before traveling to Germany, Zelensky reiterated his willingness to hold peace talks at the highest level, including a trilateral meeting with US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. While the Kremlin hasn't ruled it out, they haven't committed to any timeline for further talks either. This war is more than 3 years old. It has already divided the world in different camps of pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine, neutral, and the American doctrine dictated by Donald Trump. With no clear commitment, the war could escalate any day beyond the Black Sea, engulfing Europe and beyond. Bureau Report, India Today.
The largest attacks on Ukraine, drones and missiles alike, have occurred after Trump took power. Now that must have really shocked Donald Trump, and the reason why he's saying what he's saying. In fact, there seems to be a direct correlation to spike in Russian attacks following failed ceasefire efforts and tense US-Russia talks. We're not saying it. There's data to believe. Our data editor, Namrata Dadwal, explains.
One of US President Donald Trump's campaign promises was to solve the Russia-Ukraine war in less than 24 hours. But he doesn't seem to be having much success with it. On May 25th and 26th, Russia launched one of its most intense offensives against Ukraine. President Zelensky of Ukraine claimed that Russia launched more than 900 drones and missiles over a period of 3 days. When Trump came to power on 20th January this year, he did try to have multiple talks with both Putin as well as Zelensky to figure out a ceasefire. He called Putin in on 12th February, and then there was the US-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia on 18th February. But despite that, there was an intense increase in strikes by Russia into Ukraine. After that, over in March, US and Ukraine did offer a 30-day ceasefire period to Russia, which Russia kind of refused because it did not want to meet any of Ukraine's demands. There was a little bit of a lull, during which period Trump again tried to hold talks between Ukraine and Russia in Istanbul. But Putin did not turn up for the talks, and neither did Trump. Zelensky called them very low-level talks, and it seems they were not very successful because Russia has actually increased its airstrikes. And as you can see, there has been a sudden spike in the drone and missile attacks from Russia into Ukraine.
Now, even while Russia has threatened World War III if US continues its rhetoric, Ukraine-Russia war is not the only one that the world is grappling with. In fact, there are multiple conflicts going on across the globe as we speak. We'll try and decode 7 big conflicts and wars now. The first one being the conflict between India and Pakistan that for now seems to have de-escalated after the two countries reached a bilateral understanding on the 10th of May to halt firing and military action. But it is just a pause for now. India is clear that Operation Sindoor is not over. Should Pakistan violate the mutual understanding to hold fire, India will respond appropriately. The second one that we were talking about, the Russia-Ukraine war, which began when Russia launched a special military operation against Ukraine in February 2022. After 3 years into the war, US President Donald Trump has offered to mediate peace talks between the two countries, but we'll have to wait and see where that is headed. The third and a very important one that has taken many lives. Israel has been in conflict with Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Houthis in Yemen. The Israeli war with Hamas began on October 23rd, 2023, when Hamas launched a surprise attack in parts of Israel, killing around 1,200 people and taking over 200 people hostage. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, Yemen's civil war began in 2014 when Houthi insurgents took control of Yemen's capital and largest city, Sana'a, demanding lower fuel prices and a new government. There is crisis in Yemen, even as Yemen and the Houthis are fighting Israel over Hamas. Sudan plunged into civil war on 15th of April 2023 when simmering tensions between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces, that is the RSF, exploded into an open warfare in the capital city of Khartoum and other parts of the country. The other armed conflict, especially in East, has intensified due to renewed rebel offensives. The DRC, that is Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, faces one of the world's most protracted crises, with 25.4 million people in need of humanitarian aid. The seventh conflict. Armed conflict has escalated since the 2021 military coup involving clashes between the military and various ethnic armed groups in Myanmar. This is a very important one which has seen one of the biggest refugee crises when it comes to Rohingyas who had fled or have had to flee Myanmar and take refuge in neighboring countries, especially Bangladesh. Now, what do you give a man who has everything? If you're a world leader, apparently a jet, a golf course, or maybe a crypto deal. Donald Trump isn't just running for office, he's also running a global business for the from the presidential office. In our story, we decode how Trump's gift economy is blurring the line between diplomacy and deal-making. Take a look.
US President Donald Trump is receiving gifts from across the globe, in a way shifting US diplomacy into a marketplace. Nations like Qatar, Indonesia, and Vietnam are trying to please Trump. Qatar's royal family gifted him a Boeing jumbo jet worth 3,300 crore rupees, scheduled for delivery by 2029. Trump accepted it without hesitation. Those who don't gift him face insults. Trump embarrassed South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the White House by showing fake images of white farmer genocide, which were actually from Congo. When Ramaphosa said he did not have a jet to gift.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Vietnam handed over 13,000 crore rupees golf resort project to Trump's family, bypassing legal clearances. Indonesia offered hotel and golf projects in Bali and Java. Turkey and Azerbaijan gave real estate projects. And in Pakistan, Trump's family has launched a crypto business with the government allocating 2,000 megawatt of electricity for mining. Reports claim Shehbaz Sharif's son will manage it. Trump's crypto and business interests are thriving in countries with loose regulations, perfect for dodging scrutiny. Since Trump came to power, his family's businesses have boomed globally. From crypto launches before his inauguration to selling documentary rights and settling lawsuits, everything is monetized. Meta paid 210 crore rupees as part of a future presidential library deal, seen by many as a settlement after banning his account. Trump's diplomacy now runs on business. Trump is blurring the line between president and a businessman. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, this is big. America is not just tightening its security process for immigration clearance and not just for international students. He's talking about foreign authorities as well. We're talking about U.S. Secretary of State making a new announcement on his social media post on X. He wrote, and I quote, "For too long, Americans have been fined, harassed, and even charged by foreign authorities for exercising their free speech rights. Today, I'm announcing a new visa restriction policy that will apply to foreign officials and persons who are complicit in censoring Americans. Free speech is essential to the American way of life, a birthright over which foreign governments have no authority." A very big statement coming in from none other than U.S. Secretary of State and the interim or acting national security advisor, saying that now they're also going to have rules and restrictions on foreign governments, foreign officials who have restricted Americans from their right to free speech. Is he just talking about Latin America or other parts of the world? We'll have to wait and see. But this comes right after the announcement of US halting new student visa interviews worldwide, adding a new twist to Trump's war against Harvard University. The US administration now plans to end Harvard's remaining federal funding, alleging Harvard's handling of anti-Semitism sentiments. The government has directed all US embassies to pause students' visa appointments enrolling for Harvard.
Harvard's voice is loud and clear.
Harvard's voice is loud and clear.
Every student's welcome here.
Every student's welcome here.
The US battles against its own president to retain its academic freedom. A part of the prestigious Ivy League college, Harvard University is taking the Donald Trump government to court for an unprecedented attempt to bar the enrollment of international students. In another case, a federal judge in Boston temporarily blocked the US Department of Homeland Security from revoking foreign student enrollment on 23rd May. This is just one of the battles. The Trump administration will now direct US federal agencies to review Harvard University's grants to potentially end or redistribute funding. The administration estimates about 30 contracts collectively worth $100 million could be reviewed. Earlier, federal grants of $2.65 billion were frozen. All this because Trump administration accuses the oldest American university of engaging in discrimination and anti-Semitism.
And look, I know it may surprise you because he seems so obsessed with us, but Donald Trump doesn't actually care about Harvard. He wants to take Harvard down because universities stand for free ideas and for free speech. Free ideas and free speech get in the way of authoritarians. And so like authoritarians before him in places like Russia, like Turkey, and like Hungary, Donald Trump is attacking universities.
Harvardians have come out in a show of unity. They protest the US government's interference in their academic structure while backing the enrollment of international students and their rights to be a Harvardian.
I think that Trump's attacks on higher education stop, because if we show enough resistance, then he is going to fold. That's how Trump works. But if we start to give in, even just a little, fire a few controversial professors or stop admitting a certain type of students, then he's going to continue. He's going to come back for even more.
At the core of the United States, we're a country founded on immigrants, and we're a country, one of our core values is being welcoming to immigrants from all across America, all across the world into American shores. And I think that we've really gotten away from that core value, but it's something that's really important.
Meanwhile, US has put a halt to all new student visa appointments across the world. American universities are considered not only economic drivers, but also reflect its democratic values. Harvard University alone attracts students from more than 140 countries. American universities dominate the international league tables, such as the QS World Rankings, where 10 of the top 25 schools are US-based.
I would say that we as international students in Harvard, in the U.S., we are not enemies of the U.S. We don't hate the U.S. If we are here, it's because we admire this country and we admire actually the academic and the liberty and the freedoms that this country has. When we go back home, most of us serve as ambassadors to the country in an informal way. We go back to strengthen American ties with our countries economically, diplomatically, politically, academically. And so we are not the enemy. We are actually participating in the system, making this country bigger, if you want it, better in a sense. And so I will just say that we are not the enemy. You don't have to fight us.
Harvard, which is suing the Trump administration's actions, argues that the rush to punish the school violates free speech rights under the US Constitution's First Amendment by trying to assert control over its staff, curriculum and enrollment. Mahashweta Lala for India Today.
Now, SpaceX's prototype Starship exploded over the Indian Ocean on Tuesday, capping another bumpy test flight for the rocket central to billionaire Elon Musk's dream of colonizing Mars. Shibu Tripathi reports.
SpaceX's Starship rocket roared into space from Texas. But then it spun out of control about halfway through its flight without achieving some of its most important testing goals. This brings fresh engineering hurdles to CEO Elon Musk's increasingly turbulent Mars rocket program.
Starship Super Heavy continues to remain at the center of Elon Musk's plan to make life interplanetary, and NASA's plan to return to the moon with Artemis mission. On Wednesday, SpaceX conducted the 9th test flight of Starship Super Heavy, which is called as a successful failure. Successful because the Super Heavy rocket had a controlled splashdown that SpaceX planned for. But the Starship did not end up as it was planned.
We have the last two launches of SpaceX ended in huge explosions, scattering debris across the Caribbean. On 27th May, SpaceX's giant Starship at least did somewhat better.
30 minutes after launch, it developed several leaks and ended up into the bottom of the Indian Ocean. Elon Musk has said that they're going to learn from the mistakes of Flight 9 and integrate into the 10th development flight, which is likely to happen in June. He has said that going forward, they're going to produce one Starship launch every 3 to 4 weeks, which shows the rapid pace of development, the rapid pace at which they are learning from the mistakes, and the rapid pace at which they are turning around the Starship Super Heavy system. This will be critical to see how they go forward and begin to integrate it into the moon mission. Shibu Tripathi, India Today.
That's all in this edition of World Today. Goodbye and take care.